do we take on the karma, or do we have to continue to relive experiences that we didn't get right? I
Okay.
personally don't think so, which is unpopular. What I think happens is you are only going to experience what you're in resonance with.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think this week has been really eventful for both of us, me in particular, because there's been like this major shift in my life that's happened, and it's something that I've been considering for the last couple years, and that is to leave my marriage, basically this union that I've had for 13 years.
Mm,
And there's something to say about just kind of like living your life in the way that society wants you to live until something happens. And then when that something happens, usually it kind of starts making you shift a little bit, like your perception and your mindset to the opposite of what you thought it would be, basically.
right.
Um, so to not be so vague, basically what happened was my mother passed a couple years ago, and that started me on my spiritual journey. I wouldn't say my spiritual journey, my spiritual awakening,
Hmm.
because the journey's been,
Right.
happening forever. Um, it started, I would say, forcing me to look at things differently, and forcing me to reevaluate what I wanted in my life and the things that I wanted to come into fruition, my goals and things like that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, again, the last couple of years, it's just kind of been nagging at me. And when I say by it, I mean like my guides, my ancestors, my mom. I'm very clairaudient and clairvoyant. So I can hear it, I can see it, I can just, the messages come through so quickly and so clear to me that if I ignore it, what happens is I get a lot of anxiety,
Right.
which I don't want
Yep.
anxiety. So the anxiety turned into like this intense need to make a change in my life. And the human side of me needed that need to make sense.
Mm.
So then it took even more time.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I will say this, long story short, the last week I decided to go ahead and make the decision, and I told him, and it's been absolutely insanely. It went from being really hard to being extremely easy to get through it, because and that's how you really know like it's the right
Hmm.
decision, that you made the right decision to let go of something that you once cared deeply about,
Right.
you know? So there's something to say about that process and how that process has and will always force us to grow spiritually and to be different people for the better, in my opinion. That's, at least that's the way I look at
Yep.
it. What do you think about that?
So I have a lot to say about that, from experience, but also just tying in more of the cosmic perspective of it, which ultimately boils down and makes sense for our earthly experience. And the first thing I want to say is, um, well done to you for making a very tough decision that is hard for a lot of people because they don't have that rational, well, they did this, so now this needs to happen. Yours is more of a internal, like, your frequency is just changing. Like you said, you're going about your life, and all of a sudden events happen that make you have to look at life differently. And that's really a hard thing to do for people. But this is the first thing I want to say. It's hard because of the ingrained standards we have about what it means to be family, be connected to someone, be intimate, all these things. And a lot of that is curated to move humans in a specific direction, like you said, right? You go to college, typically you go to college, you meet someone after or during college, you get married, and then you buy a house, and there's just kind of this cookie cutter thing that's supposed to happen. And we don't often consider the spiritual implications of that kind of movement through life. We don't consider the fact that people are going to have awakenings, that people are going to have maybe unforeseen circumstances or experiences that have them shift how they once felt or once thought about the world. And so whenever two people are coming together and they're going down this very linear narrow path based on the programs that they've had, um, since childhood. You know, you watch any Disney movie, you watch any soap opera, any Lifetime show, it's the same program. And so I think what happens is people feel the intensity of what you're going through, not because in and of itself something is wrong, but because the program's not adding up. This isn't how it's supposed to go. This isn't what I was shown. This isn't what my body knows, right? And I think the second part of this is the art of letting go, which is whenever someone is really secure within themselves, right? You can, let me just say this: interstellar and or star people, they don't have marriage. They don't have a thing called marriage because it's based on that spiritual principle that I'm looking to convey here, which is whenever you're secure within yourself, you start to really connect with your godliness inside, then love becomes an expression of your being versus something that you have to find in another person, right? And something that you have to hold on to so tightly because if you don't have it, then you don't know what to do with yourself, right? And so, what we're not taught is that inner space of self realization from which all goodness, purity, knowledge, wisdom, love comes from. So then what happens is when we get into these situations and one person decides to go this direction, the other person doesn't want them to, it creates this tension. And what I'm looking to say is the art of letting go is really about honoring the unfoldment of consciousness, right? You can be with someone for a day and it could feel like a million years. You could be with someone for a million years and it feel like a day. It's all based on the fluctuation of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions at any given time. But society has made us feel so bad and so guilty about doing things, breakups and everything. So, yeah, I have a lot to say, but I'll start there.
No, that's perfect. And there is really something to say about, discernment and the fact that we are like that should have been the first lesson.
Hmm.
Like that in itself should be the first lesson that we learn when we're children,
Hmm.
because
Yep.
in order for us to really know what we want and what we don't want and like be able to feel those emotions, like truly know,
Hmm.
it takes work.
Hmm.
It took me a long time because I kept fighting. And I was thinking, that, okay, Tanisha, you have some inner child healing to do. You're dysregulated. It's you. You need to do this work. But you can be dysregulated and also not be in the situation that you should be in
Exactly.
and kind of
Exactly.
just know the difference.
Exactly.
So,
And it's not even, I feel like a lot of times like what people do is, yeah, that they do put blame on, well, it's me, well, it's them, it's me, it's them. And sometimes it's just a matter of like a square peg in a round hole. Like it's just really physics at that point. The frequencies just are not connecting. And this is where I want people to understand what spiritual maturity can do for you is you start to look at your life where you are whole and complete. And yes, maybe you have some stuff to work on, but that doesn't mean that like you shouldn't be happy in a relationship or whatever. It just means that we're all expanding in our own way. But we can see the fluctuations in relationships kind of like the changing of the seasons. And I'm not saying like to go be poly and all those things, but what I'm saying is there's a natural flow between two people. And that natural flow is going to look different for all of us. And sometimes
mhm,
that natural flow changes so much that it's actually no longer in a flow. And if both parties are mature within themselves, it'll be a very tranquil, peaceful. It might be sad, but it'll be like, hey, you know what? Thank you. I see you. This has been amazing. You've taught me so much. I've learned so much from you. I trust that your journey is going to be expansive. Let me know if I can support it. Right. And I feel like that's what's missing because the spiritual component of relationship and connection is just not there. It's based on the stories we were taught in school and the training we did not get to know ourselves. And so,
mhm.
yeah, it's for me that's what it is. That's the key because love shouldn't hurt in the way that we may experience during breakups. It should be a mutual honor and respect, but that requires both people and the society to operate from that really deep spiritual space. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and and one thing I am very grateful for is I do have that very mutual respect.
Hmm.
Like we both support each other. We are very much still in love with each other. And I think there's something to say about leaving something that you're in love with still
Mm.
and making that decision. Um, Making the decision to, how would I say? I guess exactly that, like making the decision to leave something that you love.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
not because you don't love it, but you still have those feelings,
Right.
and but there's something that's much bigger out there for you.
And
So, um,
that's so real. Yeah, sorry, but yeah, that's so real. It's like not even romantic partnerships. Sometimes it's just friendships or
mhm,
family situations, and people do things because they feel obligated, right? They say, "Well, I love them, so I should do this," and it's like, but love is never going to bind you in that way. It's going to allow you to express and be free and be open, and then you'll meet in the middle. And so I think people hold themselves back from more expansive experiences because they feel obligated and they feel guilty. But if we ask ourselves, what is that guilt? Where does that stem from? And not you, but just in general, why are we feeling guilty about making a decision based on the progression of our consciousness? You know, just something to
mhm.
think about.
That's a good question. I think there another question that you can ask yourself too is how does it feel when you fantasize about being by yourself again?
Mm,
If there's pain there, if there's excitement, is there, are you afraid? And these are all the emotions that you can start kind of digging into because it none of them are incorrect.
hmm.
They're just how you feel. So the question is why do you feel these ways, you know?
Right,
Um,
right.
I think another thing, the question that I asked myself before I made my ultimate decision, by the way, was, do you see yourself doing this for another 10 years?
Mm,
And I said, absolutely not. Like without hesitation. I was just like, nope,
yeah,
absolutely not.
yeah, and yeah,
So
that's the
go ahead.
no. You're good. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say that I think it's valid to ask yourself that question and kind of put yourself in a position, a hypothetical position, and then just notice how you feel. Like, are you feeling restricted or are you feeling relieved?
Hmm.
And if you're feeling relieved, then there's something there.
Right.
Then you need to make a change,
Yeah.
and you have to work on getting past that fear before you make that change.
Right. And would you say that the thing that holds people back from any kind of change like this is fear of the unknown? Like people don't know how to let go. Like if we can talk about what letting go really means for a moment, would you say that people have a hard time because there isn't that inner security, but also they don't know what's on the other side?
Absolutely. I think it all stems back to inner child healing and wounds. Do you have an abandonment wound? Were you a neglected child? Were you an abused child? All that comes up when that safety net is being threatened to being ripped away, basically,
Yeah.
or the safety net is being removed, is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. So, um, anyways, all that comes up for me in particular. What came up was more specific. I would say it's abandonment
Hmm.
wound would probably be my strongest one.
Yeah.
And then the wound of a neglected child. So those two are my things. And then another psychological term that we talked about last week that I threw at you was
Hmm.
limerence. And limerence is like a really big buzzword right now because a lot of people are starting to realize that one, they're not crazy.
Hmm. Hmm.
But a lot of people feel this particular emotion and it sucks. But limerence is basically an obsession for someone who is unavailable.
Mm,
And when I mean by unavailable, meaning that I'm not saying they have issues that they're dealing with that they just won't be available for you. No, what I'm saying is they're literally unavailable and you've created this fantasy in your mind to see you and the person together that never really existed. It has no backing
right.
whatsoever. You
Right.
know, and some people will say, "Oh, well, this person's crazy," or "I'm going crazy." No, you're not going crazy. You're limerent because this particular fantasy that you have is allowing you to feel safe in your thoughts, and the lack of safety is coming from those wounds that I was just mentioning.
Right.
So
And the brain, talking about the physical brain, always wants to ensure safety in its own survival, right? And so it's a very powerful instrument of the source, you
yeah,
know. And so the brain is going to send images, create scenarios, pull energy from the ether, thoughts and feelings to make sure that you feel safe. And
yep,
because safety here doesn't mean I'm safe from the big bad tiger. It means your heart, you know. And people who are going through this kind of situation, they're not crazy because they're only crazy in the eyes of people who don't understand this deeper wisdom in which we're sharing. And that wisdom is literally that your brain is creating those scenarios so that you don't have the cortisol running through your body, so that you don't have the stress hormones, because the stress hormones and cortisol means danger. Danger means I'm not safe, which means I could potentially die. Which I guess we get to the root of all this. It's a fear of death and being nothing. Um,
Yeah, it's the fear of, especially when you're a spiritual person. I think fears become a little bit more. Um, I think the fear it starts to strengthen a little bit because of that, because of your belief system.
like how
Like
so?
I was thinking, yeah, I was just gonna say the other day I was thinking of something really interesting. I was like, okay, so religious people, they believe that if you do X, Y, and Z or don't,
Hmm.
you're going to go to hell,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's straightforward. Spirituality, like New Age spirituality, we're also saying something very similar. We're saying if you don't live on your path and if you ignore the messages from your guides and spirit and things like that, then you're going to have to redo this all over again.
Oh,
That's just scary to me.
the
So
reincarnation.
you're going to
Yeah,
be reincarnated and you're going to be a snail, and now you're going to
yeah.
take, it's going to take you 2 days to get down the sidewalk. I don't know,
No,
but
this is
like,
good. I'm so
it's,
glad you brought that up. I mean, that's great. It
yeah.
all ties in. Wow. Yeah, and oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, like, that's something that is very valid. Like, we have these belief systems, and
Mm.
it just creates more fear for us.
Mhm.
And I was going to mention something that you said, but I'll let you go first until I remember.
Yeah, and so what we're talking about here is really the deeper nuances of what it means to let go, and it doesn't always have to be it could be anything. It could be a friendship, a coworker, but the art of letting go. And I wrote about this years and years ago. I had a writing on LinkedIn. I called it the art of letting go, and it's based in the idea that we create the narrative to look a certain way, right? I was saying this a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna get into it now. When that narrative starts to veer off, right? You're going this way, then all of a sudden, you go like this. This creates tension in the brain. The brain is running on specific circuits and frequencies, thoughts and feelings, circuits, frequencies, and now we get in either to fight or flight or fawn. We either run, we either fight, or we just freeze. We don't know what to do. And these are all deeply embedded psychological protections and defense mechanisms for the human biology. And so we can let go from the place of looking a little bit deeper as to what is actually transpiring. Instead of sticking to the narrative that we set and said, okay, we got to go right, 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 right. If we can be present with what is here now, what we're feeling now, and not project in the future of what could be the potentials that were, supposed to play out, you have to be real. You have to really actually be realistic about where you are in your life, in your feeling, in your experience, and then see if that's something that you want to continue to move into, right? Can I do this for another 10 years? Yes or no? Very simple. And so letting go requires reality, right? Being fully present. And then it requires you to be real within yourself and to not take personal the thoughts and the feelings that you're having. And that's some deep spiritual work, though, is to really be able to navigate what's happening inside your nervous system and your brain, but then at the same time know that it's not essentially meant to harm you. That takes a lot for people, and I can see why people don't like to go through this process.
Oh yeah, and I want to say a little bit more about that too. Once you actually make that decision, like, even you, let's say you decided to finally make the decision to move on and let go, and I think sometimes we think like that's the battle's over.
Mm,
Like,
mm, mhm,
I'm
mhm.
starting to realize the battle's not over at that point, because I'm looking at other people like, hey, how about you? And
Mhm.
then there's this codependency that's coming
Right,
up that I didn't even know that was there before,
right,
because I was already in a relationship.
right.
So now I'm battling codependency,
Mhm.
and this very limerent emotion that I'm feeling. So, anyways, the battle isn't over, and but the good news is you started the momentum, and everything that you notice, you can work on it,
Right.
and that's what I'm doing, definitely.
Yeah, and I don't. So there's codependency in an unhealthy way, and then there's just the simple fact that most humans are very social beings, and we thrive better whenever there is a support system, whenever there's a network, right? And I think some of us have that more than others. I would see unhealthy codependency as like you literally can't function unless someone else is in your life. Like that's a little bit extreme. I don't think that's what you're talking about. I think you're talking about you
But
simply,
in general, someone feels that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You simply are ready for the next chapter of what being connected to someone means for you. And that's great. Yeah, that's nothing to feel bad about. I don't think. I mean, I'm not hearing a lot of like I need to work on my inner child and stuff. No, I feel like because people can get caught up in the shadow work, right? Healing can
Hmm.
become another trap. We can be healing for 20 and 30, 40
Interesting.
years. It's like, okay,
That's something I would totally do because I am kind of obsessed with healing and trying to make sure that I'm checking off all the check marks in this
but
lifetime.
see that, oh, that's what I was gonna say earlier. The reincarnation thing, like that's not how reincarnation works. Reincarnation and karma.
I didn't. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. What was that?
I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say reincarnation wasn't the word I meant to use. I meant healing the what is it called? Ancestral
Oh,
trauma.
gotcha.
Um,
Yep. Hmm.
I forgot the term that they use, but basically making sure that I'm not taking on what I didn't learn lessons from this lifetime to the next lifetime.
Got you. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that then. 'Cause that's a great
Okay.
segue. So, do we take on the karma, or do we have to continue to relive experiences that we didn't get right? I
Okay.
personally don't think so, which is unpopular. What I think happens is you are only going to experience what you're in resonance with. That's it. It's really that simple, and it goes back to frequency again. Like reincarnation or karma is not based in a linear fashion. Because think of it like this: you're Tanisha here right now, but this is only one avatar of your soul. So, what are your other avatars doing that you call your ancestors and your guides? They're making decisions too. So, who is the one that trumps who here that
Right.
bases where Tanisha is going to incarnate next? You see,
That's so true.
it's a much more intricate
Yeah.
experience than what most of New Age talks about. Our movement through the cosmos is based on our perception of self. You can learn from your lessons and you get to choose if you want to go back and do that again or not. It's not a deterministic, hey, you didn't get that right. Okay, go back. It's you're at a certain frequency, so you're naturally going to continue to experience that thing. You see the difference?
Hmm.
So, in other words,
Yeah.
don't worry
That's.
about it, man.
I Yeah, I'd actually never really considered the fact that there's like a bunch of me's out there in the universe. Like, why would this particular version of me be the deciding factor? You know?
That's what I'm saying, and that's literally cosmic frequency. Is like you realize that you are this very expansive consciousness, and you are influencing yourself in many different timelines. So like the thoughts and feelings and experiences you're going through right now are having a direct impact on other aspects of yourself, and that those other aspects of yourself will feel that energy. Maybe one of them just sitting there eating a I don't know, drinking a glass of water, and they just start to feel sad and like, why do I feel this? And it's coming from you, but it also works the other way. You see what I'm saying? So reality becomes this very fluid and interactive play that is really only based on where your perception is at any given time. It's not a
That's
linear
true.
thing.
That's true.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
I think that definitely helps a lot. I think it's going to help a lot of people that are listening too, who are making some major decisions in their life.
Hmm.
And apparently, my example is actually really common right now.
Hmm.
Like it's happening to a lot of people.
Hmm.
People are really just ready to let go,
Yep.
and whether they have children or they're married, maybe there's so many other things that are in their life that are kind of at stake because of that decision, but they're moving past it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah. It's a big energy right now, and that means that there's different energies on the planet that are ready to be brought forth, ready to be experienced, and the people who are considering making those decisions and letting go are going to be in some ways part of that next reality, you know. And whatever, take it for what it is. But years ago, I wrote about something called the Great Split, and I talked about how there's going to be a split in consciousness that, people. It's not like we're going to blast off into outer space, but it's more like we're seeing now. Those who have really gone within themselves and navigated the spiritual depths, their dark and their light, and integrated, at least to some degree, are moving into a different frequency band than those who have not. And that's just, again, physics, oil and water. And so I think that's why it's happening, because as a collective human race, we are just one cell in the greater organization that is the cosmos. And so as the cosmos continues to refine and organize itself, well, as above, so below, right? So if you think of the human body, the cells in the human body, if you're not feeling well and you're feeling sick or something, you're going to have white blood cells that come in and basically break things up. And we call this healing. So you have the white blood cells, then you have the damaged cells. And it's like, why are the damaged cells falling away and white cells not? Because the body's trying to harmonize. And so I think the collective field is looking to harmonize and move into a different octave. And that means certain things have to release, let go.
Mm. It's so funny that you just said that, because one of the issues I've been working on right now with my health is some wound healing. Womb,
Mm, mm, mm,
WOMB.
mm,
So, in that, and I won't go too specific, but I noticed there's some things that I need to work on,
mm.
and I noticed that there's been a major release for the last, I would say, maybe 10 years
Wow.
of my life, and with no reconciliation. Like, doctors don't know what's going on. There's like no explanation whatsoever. So obviously, when it comes to disease, I
This
have to say it
ease,
that way.
yeah. This ease.
Ease.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to that, usually it starts in spirit,
Yeah.
and then it starts happening to your body, like comes through your body, and it's like alert, alert, alert. Warning, something's wrong here that you ignored when it was in spirit.
Hmm.
So now we're gonna have to make you sick.
Right.
So when I look at it like that, I know, okay, let's go back to inner child healing. I do have trauma, but I don't have trauma that I remember, but my family does. And I'm kind of putting all these pieces together and realizing that, as a whole, like, how would I say it? We have to, in a way, consider everything all like
Yeah.
together, all
Yep.
conscrewed. And I can't remember the word I'm looking for right now, but make sure that like everything is considered whole, and it can't be part of. Can't remember what you just said. Actually, you said a lot better than I did,
Um.
but you basically said that. Um, I don't know. Help me out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Well, you. It's funny because you were talking about whole, and I was looking over here at the yin yang, and I was like, oh, that's what I wanted to say about letting go is, and I'm so glad you're going here, and you forgot, so I could
Yeah.
remember it to get to this point. But so with these experiences, right, that you're going through and others are going through,
Right.
letting go means seeing it holistically. It means not taking it personal. And I'm so glad I remember this. This is how you don't take it personal. You understand that in order for you to experience the lightest part of what it means to be in union or connection with other people, friends, or family, you have to now have the experience of not being in that. And so when you can view these
Mm.
situations as a part of the greater source, a part of the greater mind that makes up totality, whether it's, again, romantic or not, you don't take it as personal because it gives you that contrast of experience now. And now you have a whole thing. You see what I'm saying? So these experiences become something that you have to go through in order to grow through and to gain the wisdom of complete totality, right? The badness
Yeah.
isn't bad. It's bad from the perspective of what it feels like to experience good, but good and bad are one thing that make up the whole, the completeness of what we are. And so sometimes these situations are literally just that. It's like, well, you, you have to integrate this. You have to integrate this aspect of the human journey, or else you won't have the complete and total picture. If you're missing this piece of it, then you don't have the whole thing. This is just a
Right.
piece. And we
Right.
say that this piece is bad, it's uncomfortable. How could they? Why did I? But we got to look at it a little bit differently and change our perspective And so this is how you let go, by understanding the deeper frameworks of spirit as a holistic yin yang thing, not bad or good, but complements that give you a wider range of a holistic experience. Woo!
Yeah, that's perfect. No, it's very well said. And while you were speaking, I did remember what my point was,
Perfect.
what point I was trying to
Good,
make
good.
before that. You mentioned vibration and then frequency, and that reminded me of
Mm-hmm.
sex. And I want us to have like a whole other
Mm-hmm.
conversation about
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing when it comes to just being sexual in general.
Mm-hmm.
But bringing up my womb healing, I came to the conclusion that at this point in my life, I would be doing a disservice to myself or my health, everything, my wholeness, if I were to pursue someone who is not on the
Mm-hmm.
same vibration as I am. And I want to talk about, like, do you feel like you can do damage to yourself
Oh,
if you were to give a part of yourself away in that way to someone who is not a frequency,
yeah.
a match frequency?
So I know I love this question. You're good, and I think that this is really important that you brought this up. And
Yeah.
so I wouldn't use the word damage. I would use the word yeah, disservice and incongruency in your energy field. So if you are engaging with someone who has not really taken time within themselves to harmonize their body, their mind, their spirit, and look, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to say that I know everything. I'm sharing what I have experienced. What you're
Mhm.
going to create is when you're engaging with someone in that way, you're going to feel into those frequencies, and you're going to take some of that energy on. Because what's going to happen is your aura and their aura is going to try to find balance. And if one person has done a lot of inner work and has found, sanction within themselves, and someone else hasn't, then when they come together, the ether needs to, okay, well, where's the middle ground here? What are we doing here? And so the person who's done enough stuff, yada yada, is inevitably going to pick up on the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and the experiences that the other person who hasn't done the work has. And that could lead to feelings of like you just you make love, but you're just like, man, like what? It should be something that charges both of you up, that expands both of you, right? That's when is whenever two people come together who have done this inner alchemy within their consciousness, and boom, it's like, there's no depletion, it's amplification. So short answer is yes, you definitely can cause um, discord in your field. I don't think there's anything like you. There's no more like casual sex. There's just not like. I mean, I guess there is, but there's always going to be a what's the word? Cause and effect to it. That's what I'm trying to say. So
I can see that. I actually don't. I don't believe in casual sex at all. Honestly,
mhm.
not at this point in my life.
Yeah,
But let's talk about that definitely, like in a whole other video, because I think that's going to be
the whole thing.
whole
I'm trying to
thing.
get this.
And I want us to talk about sex magic and how that is construed with that, because that's another really important thing to bring up. Yeah, it's
Yep,
that'll be the next topic for sure.
note that
So,
down. Yeah.
um, yeah, and I'm really happy that you mentioned that because it's not necessarily like damage. It is more of a disservice than anything. So it's
Well,
like,
yeah.
how much work
No.
do you really want to do here? You know what I mean? Like, do you really want to do this? And if you do want to do it, is this from a place of really being attracted to this person, or are you just fearful again?
Hmm.
You feeling those emotions of your childhood wound that you haven't worked on yet? But I do want to go back to something you said. You said some people, we can get caught up in
Healing.
doing shadow work
Yeah.
too much
Hmm.
in a way. Like, what would you consider a rep? What's the word I'm looking for? What would you consider the damage that could be done if you did too much shadow work? Is
Well, you're not really moving anywhere. You're re-traumatizing yourself, and you're continuing to create situations where you're re-traumatizing yourself. I see a lot of people that they get addicted to it, and it's really a neurological addiction. Again, it's they actually get a high off of, pain and pleasure are the same frequency, just like anxiety and excitement. Anxiety and excitement stem from the same core encryption, but they play out differently based on the thoughts we think about that specific energy. Well, pain and pleasure are the same thing. Your brain, some people's brains thrive on what's called mortido, which is death, and libido or libido is life, right? So there's the balance again, but um, if you are continuing to going into the darkness and continuing trying to heal for like I don't, like 10, 20, like a long time, then you're not really trying to heal. You're actually still attached and still interested in those kinds of experiences, or else they would become obsolete. You wouldn't really want to deal with them anymore, and you would heal literally and just kind of move on, or at least find resolve within it. You know what I mean? And so I
Hmm.
think the spiritual community and the New Age community thrives on people who are damaged and who do have a lot of stuff going on. So it's a double edged sword because on one hand, yes, we need people to be uh, refined within their own becoming, but on another hand, are we intentionally keeping them there so that we can continue on that story? Because you can get to a place where your journey becomes about experiencing your greatness, experiencing the expansiveness of what you are, learning more about your higher abilities, learning more about the cosmos, right? And that's how it's supposed to go. You're not meant to stay in the shadows forever. They're there to integrate, and once they're integrated, meaning you made peace, meaning you no longer have a charge in that direction of that thing that happened to you, you let it go, and then you go play in a different arena of consciousness. So,
I like that.
yeah.
No, that's perfect. I'm definitely, it's something I have to consider for sure because I do get caught up in constantly healing. Like the second I wake up to the time I go to sleep, it's very positive things that I'm learning and
Mm.
do that, and the third. And then I have to slow down a little bit during the day where I meditate. Um, but yeah,
Well,
I'll keep that in the back of my mind for sure.
yeah,
So,
and it's also like something I learned early on was you can't teach or lead from a place of pain. You just can't because you're only going to recreate that pain. I remember years
mhm.
ago, I caught myself in that loop of thinking, and it was the thoughts I was having. It was the things I was telling myself. I don't want people to experience what I went through. I don't want people to have to go through this. So I'm going to teach this, right? And so, what was my foundation? My foundation was a place of pain, and I was still being. I hadn't really actually dealt with or integrated the experiences that I had. And so I was trying to circumvent the situation by making sure other people didn't go through it.
Mhm.
And so what's inevitably going to happen is I was going to recreate those same stories in those other people. And so I had to learn to let go of that pain because pain is never the enemy. It's always our relationship to it. And like we said,
That is so true.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny that you brought that up because I was just thinking the other day. I was like talking about my job, and I my day job is working with people who are homeless and or mentally ill. So I'm a caseworker, and I do basically what you would do for your
Hmm.
life for them,
Hmm.
except for the personal things. Anyways, I got the job because I wanted to help them be the helper for them that I didn't have for myself.
Mm.
And there's something to say about people who do like I did basically. They start working in these careers that is strictly to help others. Yes, that's really great. But they do it from a place of just like not wanting anyone else to struggle like them. When really, if they need to struggle in their life for that, for them to learn these lessons, then that's what needs to happen.
Right.
I have no control over that.
Right.
And am I really helping them if I'm keeping them from doing that?
Right.
So it's just something to say about that. I'm not saying at all that people who work at homeless shelters like I did and people who are doing what I do and nurses and doctors shouldn't do their jobs. I'm just saying that looking at it from a point of are you helping because you're still hurt
Yeah.
and this is the easiest way for you to heal that,
Right.
or are you avoiding something else?
Right.
So
And because we can also help people from a place of being strong within ourselves, right?
mhm.
And I think when you help people from having a solid foundation, a spiritual connection within the source, which is you, that energy is totally different than whenever you're helping someone because you don't want them to experience what you did. If you just think about it, you can feel the energetics of it, right?
Right, and it is a very selfish thing to be honest with you
Yeah.
because it ends up being about about you
Mm,
at the end of the day. Yeah, you're helping them, but you're helping them because it makes you feel better.
right.
So,
Versus you're helping them because you have leftover energy and you're overflowing with abundance and you just want them now to experience the awesome things, right?
mhm,
And yeah, so it's, and I also think that's kind of, that leaks into relationships where you are now feel obligated because you can see that you want to help, but it's at the end of the day, um, people can only meet you as deeply as they have met themselves, you know, and
mhm,
it's each soul's obligation to pick their own selves up. That's the only way you become strong in this world, in any world, is by really connecting with what you are and finding that inner source and letting that source be the guiding force. Like Yoda said, the force is a great
mhm,
ally. And it is. It's like when you really understand that, you, it's not like nothing ever bad's going to happen, but it's more like you can face these challenges now from a very strong place within you. And like, really, okay, let's talk about it. What's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that you die. I know that no one wants to go through that. I know no one wants to leave their body and all this stuff. But we can, there's also freedom in this thought here, which is you don't really die. You know, if you, something happens in your life and you actually transition, you're still you. You're still consciousness. You're still a soul. And so what I'm trying to say is like there's nothing to be afraid of. We don't have to fear. We can lean into the trust. You will have to. It's a great opportunity to lean into that, to lean into that godliness within you, like we said in the last episode. So
that's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So ultimately, let's say someone right now is really pondering whether they should leave something or someone, and they are not really sure whether they should do it or not. They're not, they need help. What's something that you would say to them?
Whether they should do it or not, or if they need help, what would I say to them?
So if they came to
Yeah,
you and they were just like, Chris, I need
yeah.
guidance.
I would say, um, is what you're experiencing something that you want to continue to experience? Do you feel as though you are advancing along your path? And a lot of times people will say, well, advancing is sometimes I got to face the adversity. And it's like, yes, but let's not like, come on, you know what I'm talking about. Like you feel like you're in the life pattern that you want to actually experience, right? And that's where I would start right there, those two questions. And then, you
Hmm.
know, if they say no, then I think there is a lot of things that keep people attached, and that is just the yeah, kind of like the bonds, the trauma bonds that are created in different dynamics, and so people really have to then unravel their own thought processes and what is healthy, what is okay, what is not, and you kind of have to lay it all out for yourself, right? And really get clear with yourself about who you are and how you want to show up in the world and what that would look like in a relationship, you know. So it's like re-evaluating everything from zero again based on where you're at now or where they would be
Now,
at now. Yeah.
okay. Now, what if this decision is will affect multiple people, not just the person?
Mm.
Consider the same thing, or
Well, that goes back to like everything is based in like there's no right time. There's just like, all right, oh, now, you know. And so if it affects multiple people, then again you have to weigh your own well-being, right? Have you become the source of energy and like this the stable portion of that unit, whatever it is, a family, a relationship, a group setting? And if you become the center point, well, then that's a huge disservice to you and to them. So you leaving them will allow them to create that own safety and strength within themselves. Versus if you stay there in that unit, whatever it looks like, no one's really growing. No one's really growing. It becomes parasitic at that point. So you are going to affect them, just like you would affect them if you were to stay. And so one effect leads to personal growth and transformation, another leads to stagnation and depletion over time for both parties, where basically the energies cancels each other out and there's nothing left, right? So we got to think in terms of holisticness and remember that negativity or the things that we experience in this way are part of the whole. Remember, they're that piece that we have to experience, kind of with the unbiased point of view, so that the whole picture makes sense. So that's what I would say is if you stay in this group or setting, why, what are you getting out of it? How is it affecting them? Are you guys growing or not?
Mm, I like that. I think a lot of people that um, are in that situation, the first thing they think is, well, it's selfish if I do this. I have to stay in this situation. Meanwhile, the situation is so toxic, everyone's affected either way anyway. Like you might as well just pursue something that you actually
Exactly.
that would help
And
you and then ultimately help them.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and that goes back again to the society programs that we're all right. I think for
Hmm.
me, especially for men, it's a big one. It's you're the provider, you're the home care, you got to do this, you got to do that. There's a lot of responsibilities. You are the safety net, you know. And if a father or husband or brother or uncle, whatever, a man decides to move on from anything, they're ostracized a lot by society, and it's almost diabolical because then a lot of men are feel guilty to the point where they do become depleted. They do become kind of like they have nothing left because they've literally given all of themselves to a group or a relationship or whatever. And people think that's great. Oh, great! He was such a good guy. He's 50 years old and he can barely walk and he has nothing left of his life. But his kids are happy. His friends are happy, right? And I think that makes weak men, because a man, at least in my perspective, is someone who does have his morals and his inner compass online, and he shows up in that way. And the situations that he's a part of are meant to flourish and grow, and it's not meant to be something where he becomes the it's kind of like a succubus energy, right? It's like the matrix pulls on that masculine energy in it, but it doesn't nourish it. And so I think a lot of men find themselves in this guilt trip of like, why I have to, I have to. Um, but the bigger picture is that when you do what's best for your heart, then naturally that energy is going to maximize everyone else around you, even if they can't see it yet.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect. Very well said.
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and end it there today.
Wow.
Is there anything
Short,
that you
sweet.
wanna? Well, 10 minutes is
Yeah,
not. We usually do it a little
that's
about
true.
like an hour, maybe hour 20. Um, what do we have coming up right now? I know you have another course that's happening.
Um,
Um,
yeah, so we have so I think I want to highlight Cosmic Academy too. So I want to highlight Cosmic Academy and let people know that I've received some messages on Instagram and TikTok about people wanting to learn magic or people wanting to they wish they've said like, oh, I wish there was a school or something where I could learn this kind of stuff, and there really is, and that's Cosmic Academy. It's our 5 level course where you get to expand your consciousness at a self-paced way. You get to watch modules over 6 hours of video, written content, and it's just a way that you can really plug into your source and get a little guidance along the way. So there is a academy out there for you all. That's the one thing I want to highlight. And then we just finished magic meditation, so we got to get those videos out to people if they want to purchase them. And then we have the cruise in September, and then yeah, my one-on-one services again, mentorship or work one-on-one, all that stuff is still there for you guys. So honestly, don't hesitate. Cosmic Frequency could certainly use support. We could even say financial if you believe in what we're doing. If it hits home for you, don't hesitate to reach out and support us. It really does go a long way, especially with this all this stuff that's transpiring in the world.
that's
Yeah,
perfect. I think Cosmic Academy is going to definitely change a lot of people's lives. And as you can see, those who are listening, whether you have an issue with, decision that you're making or some sort of life thing that you're dealing with and you really need guidance on, Chris is really great at giving advice and, helping you through that and guiding you through that.
yeah.
So get on the website, take a look, scroll through, see what's interested in you or interesting in you, and they can still book a free consultation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we still do have the free consultation up as of right now. And then one thing else I will say is that I can do much more in a one-on-one service or a personal consultation than I can answering Instagram messages. I love the messages I get, but if people are really serious about changing their lives, reaching a different state of consciousness, then that's why I have these services there. So I'm talking to the people who are really feeling something deeper than what they've experienced in the traditional New Age communities. That's why I'm here. So take advantage of that in the most pure way, and don't hesitate to reach out. And Tanisha, thank you so much for everything that you've been doing and going through, and still like showing up regardless. It's so awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
we're
I'm barely
let's go.
here,
We're
but I'm
barely now. We're hanging on now. Everyone's doing amazing. I'm proud of humanity. I can say that. Speaking for on behalf of the Stellar races, we are seeing you guys, and everyone's doing a great job. You'll be fine.
And with that said,
Peace,
peace.
everybody. See you soon.